regular meeting of the DeSoto County School Board to order and ask you to please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There being no additions to the agenda or corrections, recommendations, sir.
Madam President, I recommend the board to approve the agenda.
I have a motion to approve the agenda. I have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Now we have recognition teacher spotlight, Mr. Hazelton.
Thank you, Madam President. We've got two items here in this section. The first one, I'm going to ask our Director of Special Education, Ms. Melissa Goss, please come forward. She has got two people today that we will be recognizing their service to our school district. Y'all go next. Ms. Goss.
Name.
Well, come on. Today we want to recognize Mrs. Dorothy Bundy and Mr. Tom Bundy. They have managed the Weighted Blanket Project for the last several years and are retiring from their service. I just kind of want to give you a background for anyone who doesn't know, but the Weighted Blanket Project was founded by Panay Geigley in the summer of 2013 when there was a box of poly pellets purchased, and Dr. Sheila Williamson asked her to make a blanket. And so she made the very first weighted blanket and then reached out to find others that could help. And so a group of 10 to 15 ladies who could sew became the Weighted Blanket Project. And they were funded by donations and felt that this was God's project for them, and began work from that point. And even though funds were lean at times, supplies always showed up so that they could continue to make blankets. In October 2014, they began working with the ARC of Northwest Mississippi, and after that point, were approached DeSoto County Schools. And at that time, around that time, Ms. Bundy and her husband took over managing that and began providing blankets and weighted lap pads to students in DeSoto County Schools. And were able to provide a number of those to the schools. With all the blessings of a variety of monetary contributions, estate donations, fabric and money donations, they have provided 739 weighted blankets and 1,479 lap pads to the classrooms in DeSoto County Schools. And so we would like to thank them for their service. We are very blessed as a school district to have people in the community like them to have provided that degree of service for these many years, and we wish them very well in their retirement.
Thank you.
Come on, buddy. Come on, baby.
Hey, y'all, come on, let's. Yeah. Thank y'all. Thank you for your service. Means a lot. Thank you. They've been great supporters of our school district and our students. We'll miss that contribution. Ms. Smith's been eager to get up here. It's our first
Yeah.
teacher spotlight segment of the year. And we have saved that for Shadow Oaks. I'll turn it over to Ms. Michelle Smith.
Good afternoon. It gives me a pleasure to present to you a wonderful young lady. This is her second year in DeSoto County. She came from Rankin County. She's a graduate of the University of Mississippi, and she is our teacher of the year. I present to you Ms. Carter Poisson-Tia.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you for the opportunity for us to be able to showcase some of the things that we've been doing at Shadow Oaks Elementary School to help out our kiddos. The first thing I want to talk about is that in my classroom, the first importance is building those relationships with those kids, making those connections. And last year, I got the opportunity to work with some EL students for the first time. And so although that was a new curveball thrown in, it actually was a huge blessing to me. I was able to embrace differences and teach other kids how to embrace differences. And then integrating their student interests, so their cultures. I was able to show them through books like, hey, you can make a connection through your, Spanish that you know. Like they would tell other kids like, oh, I know that word. They get so excited through the things that were in their culture. And then other kids were interested to learn about that too. So that was something that was new for me, but it was an unexpected surprise that was actually really cool. And then just having that classroom community where they feel safe and they feel that they can encourage one another as well as me as encouraging them. Sorry. There it goes. Also, I think it's extremely important to continue to engage your learners. I do this through acting out some vocabulary, especially with those EL students. I had to get creative and think of ways that could reach them quickly with them not having that background knowledge. So we would act it out, we would draw illustrations to help go with our vocabulary. I did a lot of hands-on activities with them, with manipulatives, whiteboards. Just simple things can really get them really involved and engaged. Just saying, 1, 2, 3, hold those boards up. All right, let me see what you got. Like they get so into it, And then that friendly competition. So sometimes I would throw in some games if I realized, okay, this is a skill that we're still really having a hard time with. Let's present it in a new fun way for them. And so then also I did a thing called a Fry Word Club. And so a lot of my students last year, as well as with the pandemic, not just my EL students, but they really struggled with those trick words or those sight words that we call. And so I realized a lot of them didn't even know their first 100 fry words. And at first I was like, oh, panic. But then I realized, okay, I'm going to make this fun for them. I'm going to give them incentives and I'm going to have them study these and they're going to earn prizes for them. And so we published them in the room for them to continue to earn stickers on the chart and they would get a prize for however many words they had learned. And they just got really excited about it and jumped right into it. So it was awesome. Now I just wanted to share some pictures of some activities that I did last year. Last year, our second grade, we did a project on a leprechaun, how to catch a leprechaun. And so there's a cute little book that goes with that. And so in the month of March, they all were able to create that and get really hands-on with it. And they really enjoyed that. And then I also did with fractions, we did Play-Doh to show fourths, thirds, how to divide that up. And it was just something real simple, but they loved it. And then we also did something towards the end of the year, a STEM project where they had to build the tallest tower. So they got a partner to build with, and they got to make it out of uncooked noodles and marshmallows. So they really enjoyed that too. So that was something just really fun that we threw in there at the end of the year that I thought they would enjoy. And then the real importance here is that we are a team at Shadow Oaks. I am not standing up here because of all the things that I do great. I have a team that supports me, Ms. Smith, as well as every single one of our teachers. We communicate with one another, we get involved, we use our iReady data, we use FMP levels to get to what these kids truly need. And then we actually pair up with even our activity teachers. So the PE teacher is now asking, hey, what are some number words that you guys are working on so I can start incorporating that in our exercises? What are some fry words that they might be missing out that I could start, hey, that's the word of the week, Just anything that we can do to continue to kind of tag team and hit those content more often. Our title teachers, our interventionists, and then our EL teachers. So last year I got the opportunity to get to know her a lot more, and we worked on vocabulary together. And I just gave her those vocabulary words at the beginning of the week, and I would say, hey, this is what they're probably going to be seeing on the test. And she was like, oh, I'd love to throw that into some of my lessons as well. And I just thought that was great because they got an opportunity to hear those words more often than the kids that were just in my classroom. So they kind of got that tag team on there and double dose of it. And that really helped them. And Ms. Burns couldn't be with us today, but she did have some words to say, and she is our EL teacher. So I'm going to play that video for you guys so that you can hear some of the things that she got to do with my EL students last year.
I know she hated to miss it today, didn't she?
So,
She was supposed to be,
Yeah,
like, she was real upset about not being able to be here.
sorry, I have to figure this thing out. All right. That's right.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rhonda Burns. I'm the EL teacher at Shadow Oaks Elementary School. I'm so sorry I'm not able to be there in person today, but I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to showcase our school and our amazing EL students. This is my 7th year as a teacher. I previously worked in the field of IT as a software developer. Teaching is definitely a roller coaster of a ride. It can be as exciting, as thrilling, and as adventurous as you make it. That is the mindset I have about teaching overall, especially when planning lessons and activities for my EL students. This past year was extremely tough on all of us. However, each new day brought new opportunities to go further, to do better, to learn more. In my EL classroom, I enjoy challenging my students to think critically and to express themselves. Lessons and activities are standards-based, targeted, and intense. They are also extremely fun and engaging. My students have traveled the globe virtually, learning about other cultures and their traditions. They have participated in imaginary play with puppets, utilized technology, storytelling apps, games, and other tools to build skills. They are encouraged to read and write about things they relate to or connect to. I try to remind them often that they are special and capable of learning anything. So let's talk about critical thinking and how it benefits children. Critical thinking fosters independence, it enhances creativity and encourages curiosity. Kids who are taught to use critical thinking skills ask a lot of questions. They want to know the why behind things. Critical thinking skills can help someone better understand themselves, other people, and the world around them. So let's talk about some specific things we do in the EL classroom. Last year, my students traveled the world virtually to learn about other cultures, their language, their food, their art, their clothing, all in an effort to develop their empathy skills, feed their curiosity, and most importantly, build cultural tolerance. The students enjoyed sharing aspects of their culture. We enjoyed eating tasty treats, looking at old photos, admiring clothing and toys, learning about religious practices and beliefs, and so much more. Through puppetry, they learned to communicate and express their creativity. Let's take a look at some of the benefits of puppetry. Puppets change the entire classroom by creating possibilities for creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and curiosity. It gives the kids a chance to use their silly voices to be silly, and it puts them in the role of creator. They can also be a co-teacher, learning partner, and facilitate learning by subverting the ego. Puppet play encourages language development, building confidence in speaking and reading aloud, among so many other things. Puppetry is a wonderful tool to use in the classroom. Through storytelling, they were able to see themselves as authors and illustrators of their own travel adventures. The process involved brainstorming, writing, editing, rewriting, noticing their mistakes, illustrating, voicing, and recording their stories, all for a beautifully finished video story that they were so proud of. Let's take a look at some of the beautiful videos that were produced.
Trip to New York, written by Lisa Fairfax, illustrated by Lisa Fairfax. Long ago, me and my family went to New York. We went to shops because our grandma and grandpa. We ate burgers. New York is a great place. I want to come back again one day. The end. Running to Mexico, written by Vaccination. One day I want to go to Mexico. Me and my family went before. It was good and fun. We had to eat DeSoto there. Tomatoes are my favorite. One day I want to go to the shops. I want to get candy. Mexico is so good and fun. The traveling to Yemen with my family from Hashim 7. One day I traveled to Yemen with my family. I had so much fun. Me and my sisters and my parents slept together. I slept great. We swam in the Red Ocean, then got dried off, changed clothes, and drove home. Then my parents and my sisters played and bought food and clothes. When we got home, we ate, went to sleep, and waited till next morning. One day I hope to go back. The end. My days in Mexico. One day I sleep. One day I went to Mexico with my two sisters. We got some good tamales. Yay! I saw my grandpa and my grandma. I met my puppy. He was a baby. We played together. My grandma cooked for me and my puppy and my sister. It tasted good. Yay! When we had to go back home, I would love to go there again. The end.
Weren't those amazing? There are so many benefits of storytelling for kids. For instance, it boosts their listening skills. It increases their cultural understanding, enhances their communication skills, and makes learning easier. As you can see, we had a great time in the EL classroom last year. Every experience, every activity, every lesson was an opportunity to grow their English language skills. I am looking forward to continuing the journey and riding the roller coaster again this year, partnering with amazing teachers like Ms. Flosentia and amazing leaders like our principal, Ms. Smith. Thank you again for this wonderful opportunity. Have a great day.
Thank you all for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you guys were able to see a little bit of what we have going on at Shadow Oaks.
Great presentation. Before y'all leave, I want to thank y'all for putting this together. I know y'all are very busy at the school, and Ms. Smith, we were out there at stopped by Shadow Oaks. I think it was the first day of school for the first couple of days, and always just enjoy the atmosphere there. You've got a great school culture, school climate, and you're doing a great job. Your teachers are doing a wonderful job. Thank you for this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We try.
This is one of our favorite parts of the board meeting, when we get to focus on what matters most, and that's teaching and learning in our students. That is the end of that section, and then I'll finish up superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. Attorney's report.
We have nothing to report.
You all received a copy of the August 5th minutes of the board meeting. If there are no changes, do I have a motion to approve them as presented?
Make the motion to approve the August 5th board meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The consent agenda, A to VB, we keep having all these long agendas here. With no corrections to the agenda, to the consent agenda, your recommendation, sir.
Madam President, I recommend the board to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. New business. Miss Gray. Statement of revenue and expenditure.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So we have our board report for the month of July, which is the start of our fiscal year. So the numbers, of course, in July are going to be quite different than June. So our revenue collections through July for general funds are $15,538,446. We're up 17% over last year. Last year we were at $13,309,854, and that is a direct result of the increase in MAP and ad valorem. And revenues for all funds are at $17,050,591. We're up 26% over last year due to the same reasons and federal reimbursements, but 26% at this point only represents about $3.5 million. So that kind of puts in the frame of reference for you. General fund expenditures through July are $5,701,282 compared to last year. We're actually down 3%. Last year we were at $5,848,258. But it's only $147,000 difference between the two, so you can practically call that zero in the big scheme of things. But do remember, July is the lowest month because we have a lot of employees not here in July, and teacher payroll does not start until August. So that's generally our lowest month.
Thank you. Your recommendation on the statement of revenue and expenditures for July 2021.
Madam President, I recommend the board to approve the statement of revenue and expenditures for July 2020.
I have a motion to approve the statement of revenue and expenditures.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Statement of cash flow for July 2020.
Our district maintenance cash balance is $127,431,324. Of that, we have our invested balance of $28,623,317. And all funds cash balance is at $156,759,195.
Thank you. Your recommendation, sir.
Madam President, I recommend the board to approve the statement of cash flow for July 2020.
Motion to approve the statement of cash flow.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Combination balance sheet, July 2021.
Our fund balance for all general funds as of July is $126,613,239. It's about 12% over last year. Last year we were at 125,317, but that's kind of how we ended June. So we expected July to be about the same. We generally pick up the fund balance in July because there are not that many expenditures, but we do continue to get the same revenue. And all funds balance is at $156,11,854.
Your recommendation on the combined balance sheet for July?
Madam President, I recommend the board to approve the combined balance sheet for July 2020.
I have a motion to approve the combined balance sheet for July. Do I have a second?
You like that balance sheet?
Yes.
It's always great.
Yeah. Okay, certification of bank reconciliation for July.
May I have a vote, please?
Oh, that's right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now,
All bank statements have been reconciled with no exceptions.
yay.
Recommendations are on the bank reconciliation.
Madam President, I recommend the board to approve the certification of bank reconciliations for July 2023.
Do I have a motion to that effect? Make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Ms. Gray. Personnel, Mr. Allison.
Yes, ma'am. Personnel packet this afternoon, pages 1 through 4 recommendations. Pages 5 through 7 are personnel changes. Page 8 is a memo for myself and all employees who have not been awarded Mississippi Care license and will be paid non-licensed. They have paid $82, and then those that are keeping us subject to $150 daily. 9 have received licenses from this year, so they are starting in now in September. Page 9 is a memo from Coach Jenkins, Director of Athletics, requesting the Board of Education approve following people who will be volunteer paraprofessionals and will assist with coaching for the 21-22 school year. Someone for Centerville High School dance, Lewisburg High School cheer, Lewisburg High School football. Page 10 is a memo for this triplet, principal of Handle Elementary School on 2 employees for both teacher assistants who work August the 2nd, 21 from 3 to 5:30. She's asked they receive comp time 1 hour and 15 minutes for that. That was an open house that they participated in. Page 11 is a memo from Ms. Steiner, principal at Lake Commerce Middle School, on employees who the teacher assistants who also work on August the 2nd, and also needs to do comp time of 1 hour and 15 minutes. Just time served there. So, page 12 is a memo from myself and request for an additional interactive projector technician unit in the technology department. This unit will be paid out of district funds for the maintenance tech scale. Pages 13 through 15 is the interactive projector technician job description. Page 16 is a memo for myself and request for additional data support customer service unit for federal programs. This unit will be paid with federal cost funds and will be paid per the data support scale. Page 17 through 19 is the data customer support for federal programs job description. Page 20 is a memo for myself and request for an additional data customer support unit for human resources department to be paid out of district funds, be paid per the data support scale. Pages 21 through 23 is the data customer support processing orientation job description. Page 24 is a memo from Ms. Gray's Chief Financial Officer on request for an additional district bookkeeper unit. This position we paid out of district fund to be paid per the data support scale. Pages 25 to 26 is the district bookkeeper job description. Page 27 is a memo from Ms. Gray's request for an additional payroll benefits clerk unit. This unit will be paid for out of district funds, paid per the data support scale. Pages 28 through 30 is the payroll benefits clerk job description. Pages 31 through 33, that's the data customer support federal programs job description. Now with the additional unit added, it does a revision to the other position there in data customer support. Page 34 is a memo from myself on request of additional pay substitutes at $125 per day. This is for high priority school vacancies. These locations may change daily and will be determined by the schools with a high number of teacher absences. Rates for high priority schools will be effective beginning Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, and continue through the 21-22 school year. The current substitute rate of $82 per day will remain for non-high priority schools. This will take a lot of jobs to find substitutes. Page 35 is Exhibit A from Kelly Educational Pricing Sheet that we changed to approve and amend the contract. Page 36, a request for additional pay from Ms. Ingram, our Director of Federal Programs on employees who will work to provide transportation to students who attend after-school tutoring services at Lake Commerce High. They'll be paid at a rate of $34 per route. That will begin September 3rd and end on June the 30th. Page 37 is a list of those employees working. Page 38 is a request for additional pay from Ms. Ingram on teachers who will work as after-school tutors for Lake Commerce High School for students who need extra academic support. They'll make it rate of $27 per hour. That will begin on 9/3/21 and end on 6/30/22. Page 39 through 40 is a list of those teachers that will be working. Page 41 is a memo from myself on the revision of the retired licensed long-term substitute pay and provisional teacher pay. That would move from 115 to 125. For these schools that need to at least match that figure. Page 42 is a memo from myself on the revision of the following pay scales. This will be effective Tuesday, September 7th, for the following skills: school bus driver, bus aid pay scale, maintenance pay scale, The school level maintenance pay scale essential services, and page 43 is that actual pay scale, school bus drivers and bus aides pay scale. You're looking at single route with an increase of about, I think, $1.04 per route, double route, an increase of $1.80 per route. Page 44, school maintenance scale, the new scale would increase by $1 per hour. And then page 45, central services maintenance scale, that would be an increase of $1 per hour.
The recommendation, so do you have any comments?
Great report. Madam President, I recommend the board to approve personnel as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve personnel as presented? Do I have a second? All in favor? Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Take refuge. All right, residency appeal, Mr. Culver.
They're all right.
Okay. And student discipline, Mr. Finley,
They're all matters that we need to discuss.
for executive session. Remind everyone that public comment and requests here is the time for citizens to make presentations to the board. This is not a debate setting. This is not a question and answer session. This is time for citizens to address the board. Another reminder, if you're referring to a student, an employee, a teacher, in any capacity, we will need to hear that in the executive session. The board allows 30 minutes for public comments. We have 10 people who have signed up to speak, so they will each have possibly 3 minutes to speak. You have the list?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I'll call out the names in the word that are signed up. You can indicate if you wish to speak. At that time, I'll call out the first names one at a time. Last initial, Brian C. You have 3 minutes.
All right, good afternoon, board, Corey, and Van Alexander. I'm here, first off, I want to say congratulations to y'all and thank you for the job y'all been doing over the last 2 years. I know it's been extremely difficult to make decisions as to how to proceed with the schools and all the regulations and wading through the data and what's best. I know that there are people here to speak about the mask. I implore you, please stay the course that you're on. You gave this parents a choice this school year of whether or not their kids wear masks to school. And I'm assuming y'all have been in the schools, probably 95% of the parents and kids have spoken, and they want the choice to wear a mask or not. And then most of them will not. My kids go to Hernando. I love my children dearly. I don't want to see them die from a virus. But there are studies after studies. I know there's a doctor that's going to stand up and speak on behalf of masks. There's a school board meeting from just about a month ago where a doctor stood up and gave all the reasons why they should not be forced to wear masks. There's a better chance of a kid being struck by lightning than dying from this disease. The mask does not help them in a school setting. Their cases are going up in our schools. I get that. The cases are going up everywhere right now. It's not even the places that are masked up tight. I'm a real estate agent, as some of y'all may know. I'm selling houses to people moving from Memphis, where this doctor's coming from, and all over the country that are trying to get away from being told what our kids can and can't do at school. The last time I looked, we still live under that flag that we just said a pledge of allegiance to, and the parents have made a choice not to wear masks. 95%. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next would be John W.
Thank you, Mr. Yusuf and the board for having me. My name is John Williams. I'm a lifelong resident of Fernando, graduate of Fernando High School, and my dad served on this board back in the early 90s, I believe, with you, Ms. Jolly.
Oh, yes.
So I appreciate you guys giving me the time to speak. My oldest daughter missed her graduation or had a somewhat graduation during that year that we had to cancel the school. But this issue is really not about the effectiveness of the masks. because if they are effective, then those that wear them shouldn't be concerned about those that don't. This, in my opinion, is an attempt by those of a different political perspective from me, who are trying to force their agenda, honestly, in my opinion, towards socialism, towards forcing our children to aspire to these mandates. I want my child to be raised with the same civil liberties and freedoms that I had, and to try to force our children to continue to wear a mask is a gross violation of our civil liberties, as the previous gentleman said, in this country, that we're supposed to have the freedom to make those choices. The great part of COVID, if there's one caveat that can be positive about all of this, is it forced the entire country to take a quantum leap forward in how we teach our children using technology with the tool of virtual learning. So the great part about this is those that do live in fear of the virus and don't want their children to be exposed to the potential harm of that virus have a choice. They can do virtual learning from home. And I don't think that the rest of the children should have to suffer the consequences of those that are living in fear of the virus. Let those that are living in fear stay home and learn virtually. And I think it's a very simple idea. It should be a simple answer. And like the previous gentleman, I thank you all for having the courage to start our schools on time with a full schedule without mask mandates. And I hope that you'll continue to have the courage to stand up. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have two on here that I have to ask for a little help from the audience. This one, the initials I believe are KS, and the topic was school safety. No, ma'am, yours is, excuse me. Yes, ma'am, you can.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I was looking at another name.
No problem. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. And I agree with the people that came to say, yes, we all deserve choices. And the mention of virtual learning, I'm all for that. And that's kind of why I'm here today, that I believe everyone should have that choice. We should have the choice to wear a mask or not wear a mask. And for those children who are, as he said, live in fear or whatever the case may be, or just health reasons or whatever, they should have that choice to be at home and learn virtually without parents having to pay for it. So that's why I'm here today requesting that at least give us that choice to be able to keep our children safe by allowing them to at least work from home virtually. Thank you.
Bill and Janet S. I'll remind everybody it's 3 minutes, so in case I don't remember.
Thank you, board, for allowing me to come and speak. I realize I'm probably in the minority, but I would like for the board, for the superintendent, to provide the numbers to the board of the number of children and staff who tested positive last year when the mask mandate was in effect, and compare that to 1 month of now going back to school without a mask mandate. And then I would ask the board to make a decision based on that information as to what is best for the staff and for the kids of the DeSoto County School. I feel that it's important to rely on people who do this for a living. They have gone to school for many, many years, and we don't necessarily have to agree with them, but I think we have to give them credit for knowing what they're talking about. Recently, I had spine surgery. I went to my family doctor. He referred me to an orthopedic surgeon, who then referred me to a spine specialist. So when I needed that expertise, I went to somebody who had years and years of training. I didn't go to a general surgeon. I didn't go to a family doctor for that expertise. And I would encourage us to follow the expertise of the epidemiologists that work so hard in order to keep all of us in this country. Appreciate your time. Thanks.
Tom D. Jeremy M. Paul P.
Pass.
James B. That's what identified everybody's name. That's fine. You're fine.
How are y'all? My name is Jay Bramlett, lifelong DeSoto County resident, like everyone else. I'd like to pride y'all on the jobs you've done in the last 2 years. I know this has been terrible for y'all as well as everyone here. Last tally, I think we got 7 in DeSoto County schools in my family. We graduated 4. You guys and prior administrations have done great. And we thank y'all for that. I'm here to ask you, number one, to keep it optional for the masks, but also to stress the importance of mental health in these children. I worked for LeBarner for 10 years up until this year, and I recently just left my career for personal reasons, not agreeing for what's going on in this world. But either way, from, we'll say, March 2020 until February of this year, I was on every floor of that hospital, and I saw the attempted suicides, and I also saw the numbers from the suicides of these teenagers all the way down to 11 years old, actually. And it's because they're at home. You know, I know the numbers because I've worked there for so long, and I saw it jump from 1 or 2 per week to 7 per week of attempted suicides. And the parents are staring at us, screaming, crying, and all we can do is hold them, love them, and tell them we'll do whatever we can to help their children get back to some sort of normalcy. And I'm praying and I'm begging you guys, keep the schools open, number one, keep it optional. Ms. Kay over there said perfectly, keep the option for virtual. And if people want to stay home, let them. But the masks, I beg you to keep optional, because not only does it affect their health, but it also affects their mental health. And they go home with that, and the parents are trying their best, but you're all parents, I'm sure, grandparents and stuff. So I beg of you, please keep the masks optional, and please keep the schools open for these kids in your life. Thank you for your time.
We're going to need some more help here on handwriting. I think it might be Shane. I apologize. Shane. Okay.
Good evening, folks. Name is Shane Quick. I've been hard of hearing my entire life. The last year and a half, 2 years of work, having to work around people wearing masks has been exceedingly difficult, especially since one of my hearing aids is down. Now, how many children are being denied the ability to learn to lip read as well as the ability to hear and understand other people clearly? This is an issue that's very personal to me. I don't even have children. Clinically speaking, it is absolutely intellectually brain dead to put a cloth Petri dish-like covering over someone's face in the hot, humid environment of Mississippi or the South in general, and assume that it does not incubate pathogens that will later break off and be inhaled. Whereas one has open air, a pathogen may pass by and not even be inhaled by the potential breather in of said pathogen. Now, there will be people that will clinically try to refute me. Fine, go ahead. But that makes me question your credibility if you have a clinical education at all and you try to argue that wearing a Petri dish on your face is a good idea. Now, if someone is actively coughing, it would make sense to cover it up to keep particulates from coming out because they're in coarse aerosolized form. Now, that don't mean everyone should be wearing this because now you're creating the Petri dish effect. So if someone's actively coughing or spewing out, pathogens, they should be isolated, quarantined, or whatnot in a legal, freedom-respecting manner. But otherwise, it's just not a good idea. Furthermore, we're designed to be properly oxygenated and see other people's faces. Making kids cover their faces in the most formative times of their life when they're young is really doing a huge disservice to the youth. Furthermore, what about your older people say that can't, hear people without lip reading? So, this is a real concern. So I would challenge anyone to clinically refute me with a truly intellectual argument. Thank you for your time.
Josh B. That concludes the public comments section. If you've got the request for the hearing.
Okay. All right, we have 3 now. This is just the end of public comment. Now we have 3 requests to be heard. Laura Scales. Step forward, you have 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Hello. Well, I also have some handouts for you guys.
Lauren, do you mind? Lauren, do you mind?
Are these the same as what was sent to Ms. Frost?
One was, I just printed out since I will be citing it.
Because we received everything you sent to Ms. Frost.
Okay. If anyone would like a handout, I've got it.
Okay, thank you.
We'll pass it on.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, first I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak briefly pertaining to the issues of COVID risk mitigation strategies, in particular, universal mask mandates. I know we've heard a lot, but I'm hoping to bring some facts to our discussion today. I hope that people will take this message seriously and not view it as being politically motivated, but rather simply state a statement of fact. My name is Laura Scales. I am a mother to 2 young children, the oldest of which is a kindergartner at Lewisburg Primary this year. I am a small business owner. I do not have a medical degree or experience as a medical professional or researcher. That is why throughout this pandemic, my family and I have heavily relied on the guidance from those who have dedicated their lives to science, medicine, and medical research. These are professionals who spend their time trying to preserve our health and do so in a manner that is efficient, cost-effective, and does the most good for the most people. Thus, it is not surprising that all authoritative bodies, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, Centers for Disease Control, and Mississippi Department of Health, endorse a triple-layered approach for the prevention of COVID. This approach includes 1, vaccinating eligible people, 2, social distancing, and 3, wearing masks when indoors with groups. They have also released some startling facts about COVID, in particular the Delta variant recently. Since the beginning of the epidemic, COVID has climbed into the top 10 causes of pediatric mortality in the US. Secondly, the Delta variant has an R0 value of an 8.5. When this began, the R0 value was 2 to 3, the same as the flu. Flu is a 2. That means 1 infected person can infect 2 more. We're now at an 8.5. This variant is 1,000 times more contagious than when we started, than where we were 18 months ago. I know the use of masks is sadly a heavily debated and often heated topic, but amongst infectious disease practitioners and public health professionals, there is no mask controversy as to their efficacy. Masks work, not 100%, but they significantly decrease transmission of respiratory transmitted agents such as COVID and the flu. If you want to look at your handouts, I'm going to read directly from a recently accepted and published scientific report titled Examining the Interplay Between Face Mask Usage, Asymptomatic Transmission, and Social Distancing on the Spread of COVID-19. These researchers report when the proportion of the population wearing masks was increased to 80%, the average cumulative incidence of infection decreased to around 35%. In contrast, increasing social distance compliance to 80% only reduced total infections by 8%, and 87% of the population was eventually infected. And I'm going to hone in on that because right now our risk mitigation strategy is simply a social distancing strategy. That means at our elementary level where kids cannot get vaccinated, we will see 87% of our children infected, not quarantined, infected. Furthermore, the combination of wearing masks and practicing social distancing by a high proportion of the population dramatically reduces the total number of infected individuals to 10%. We have a chance to drop from 87 to 10, and we can do it today. They further go on to say our simulations indicate that with our social distancing modeling assumptions, wearing masks has a more profound effect than social distancing on flattening the epidemic curve. For instance, when 80% of the population wears masks, the epidemic curve is 8 times flatter than without any non-pharmacological intervention. In contrast, if 80% of the population practices social distancing, the flattening of the curve is less than threefold. The most dramatic effect on flattening the curve is observed when wearing masks is combined with social distancing. What we have seen in real life is that masks work. Like someone said earlier, look at the data from last year. I'd love to see it. At our local hospitals, masks are mandated. N95s are given out to those who come into the ER without a mask on. Since the beginning of the mask mandate in hospitals, transmission of the virus within the hospital has trickled to almost nothing despite enormous numbers of patients. Similarly, many school and college campuses have endorsed this approach with indoor classes. Why then do we question the use of this proven modality when it pertains to K-12 school children? It can't be because children don't get COVID, as children make up a substantial portion of the epidemic today. In fact, according to Memphis Children's Clinic, which has six locations throughout the greater Memphis area, their weekly positivity has significantly increased since school started. I spoke to my son's pediatrician today. That's why I was a little late. I wanted to have the most updated numbers for you all. According to her, April, May, and June, mostly under 5% positivity rate. But starting July 5th, that week, 5% with a total of 9 students, or 9 pediatric cases. July 12th, 6.2% and 15 students. July 19th, 11.5% and 36 confirmed cases. July 26th, 13.7% and 53. August 2nd, we're now in the start of school, 13.8% with 66 confirmed cases. August 19th, 16.1%, 126 new cases in kids. August 16th, 14% with 170, and August 23rd, so not even making it through a full month of school, 13.8% with 248 new cases. This is combined, and the rate of Mississippi has been higher than the average at times. This is coming straight from my son's pediatrician. When this board was finalizing its back-to-school plans for this school year, again, the positivity rate was very low. I understand why you made the decisions you did, and as a parent, that's why I made the decision I did. I talked to my son's doctor. I talked to all of his doctors. He has a team, and they were fine with it. But now that's not what we're looking at. Schools throughout the country have closed down due to large outbreaks, including in this very school district. Within the first few weeks of the school year, we have had 2 schools switch to virtual, and an entire grade in another school was similarly affected. Yet this didn't happen last school year when better risk mitigation strategies like universal masking were embraced by this school district. There's one more item I would like to address. It has come to my attention that if someone in a student's household tests positive, that student will be quarantined. But what I think a lot of people sitting in the audience don't realize is that when it comes to a teacher's household, they do not quarantine. And we don't have masks. And we have a population from 5 to 11 that cannot get vaccinated, cannot protect themselves. So they are relying on the adults to be adults and to do the right thing and to protect themselves. To me, COVID is like drunk driving. You're not just going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt all of the people in your car and all the people who decide to get out on the road that night. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much for your consideration. I know it's not an easy job, but I know you'll do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next request to be heard is from Matthew Reese.
And
You have 10 minutes.
good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the chance to make a few comments. As she said, my name is Matthew Reese. I'm a parent. I have 4 children, 3 of whom are in DeSoto County schools. I'm also a board certified pediatrician. So I come with those 2 perspectives to share my thoughts about the things that most of the comments have been about our response to the COVID pandemic and how we can keep our kids in school. I think everybody who's here would agree that the best thing for our kids is to be in class, is to be safe and be able to have that in-person learning that isn't affected by having to go to virtual learning or hybrid schedule. I think that's very, very disruptive to their learning. So I think we can all agree that that's our goal. My concerns are that the current plan isn't giving us our best chance to do that for our kids. I work primarily at St. Jude, also at the Bonner Children's Hospital. I want to share just a few experiences that I've had taking care of kids who have been impacted by COVID. I took care of a high school age young man for several weeks in the ICU while he was on life support, multiple forms of life support, after developing multiple blood clots in his lung related to MISC, the inflammatory syndrome that's happening as a result of COVID infection. After about 6 or 8 weeks of hospitalization, he was able to be discharged home, but still had a road with extensive rehab ahead of him. And he needed a lot of support even going home. I took care of a middle school aged young lady who was admitted to the hospital. Her admission was about 2 weeks long. Early on in the admission, I could tell she was very scared. I didn't quite know why she was sick, but she was still doing okay. But we found out that both of her parents had been admitted to the hospital for a whole month, both of them in the ICU, requiring life support. And she was concerned that she was going to have the same outcome as her parents. She'd get that sick and have to be on life support for an extended period of time. We've had parents who have called when their child had a medical emergency and they needed to be seen in an emergency room, but they weren't able to get the care that they needed in a timely fashion because the ER was full. These are the things that happen when our medical system is strained to the point that it has been recently. Now, I want to point out that these are not exceptional cases. I intentionally selected cases of children who are not at the highest risk, children who would still be in our schools. Many of our patients are so high risk that we don't allow them to go to in-person school on a regular basis for the side pandemic because of their risk. These aren't those patients. These are kids that could very well be in our public school district, have pretty significant impact from COVID. Just one more example, that's my own personal experience. About a week into this year, my oldest daughter came home, developed symptoms, and tested positive. Just in hours before she tested positive, about 5 of us had been in the same bedroom trying to put together their debunk that kids were healthy, so we were handing off tools and all over. So you can imagine there was quite a bit of exposure during that time. That one infection turned into several infections in our family, resulted in 3 kids missing about 2 weeks of school each. Kept me out of work for 2 weeks, including missing clinic appointments with kids that were at pretty critical points in their treatment. And it's left my wife with persistent symptoms more than 2 weeks out from the onset of her illness. So I know that there's a lot of focus on deaths, there's a lot of focus on other statistics, but aside from all of those things, there are a lot of real costs associated with COVID. So just the disruption in my own family was a good example of that. I don't share all this to complain. I share it all just to give us a better idea of what those costs are to the children that we're trying to help. But those experiences are far from unique. Just from the data published on this in the district, it shows that by my count, about nearly 3,000 students have been required to go to virtual learning or hybrid learning, as we mentioned earlier. Those students don't have a choice anymore about virtual learning. There have been, not counting those students where there's obviously a high rate of infection, high rate of quarantine, just the other students in the district, there have been an additional 900 cases, and an additional 2,300 students who have been quarantined just in the first 3 weeks. That's about 6,000 students who have missed a significant chunk of the school year already. It's about 18% of the total student population in the district. I think that's a significant impact on our kids' learning. I think we can do better. We're not asking for Herculean efforts to drive the risk of COVID down to 0. I don't think that's reasonable. I don't think that's even possible. This is a tall order, even in the best of circumstances. It's Delta variant. But what we are asking is that we use our best tools that are available to us. These are simple, evidence-based measures that are recommended by the vast majority of medical professionals. They're things that we can do right now in our district. The first thing, the most effective tool we have is vaccination. As many of us know, students age 5 to 11 are not yet eligible for vaccination, but 12 and older are. Vaccines are safe and they're effective. The district can provide reliable and sound information to help parents make decisions about vaccination for themselves and vaccination for their eligible students. Right now, only 33% of DeSoto County residents are vaccinated. That places all of us at risk. Vaccine clinics can be set up in schools. Local pediatric clinics have offered resources to do that for parents who are interested in being vaccinated themselves or allowing their students to be vaccinated. The Mississippi State Department of Health has resources also to facilitate that. Second, universal masking. This has been referenced before. The CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics both strongly recommend universal face mask use in schools. To get there, there will have to be a requirement for all students and staff to wear masks in our school. Right now, 89% of school districts in the state of Mississippi have a masking requirement in place. We're in the minority, even in Mississippi. And I think it's time for DeSoto County to join that number and to help that issue. Testing. Right now, there's no requirement for symptomatic students to be tested before they return to school activity. That places many, many students at more risk. There are also resources available to the State Department of Health to implement asymptomatic screening, which can detect infections early and drive down the risk of infection. These are all things that the district can do now that will make a significant impact in improving our chances of keeping our athletes in the classroom. The last thing is communication. I've been surprised to not see any communication from the district to families of students about recommendations for masking or even the return to school plan in general. It's available on websites. I haven't seen any active communication. I think if the district can take a more active role in encouraging vaccination for those who are eligible, that can go a long way. Local leaders have an important role in helping people make decisions that will keep them and their families safe. In addition, I think it's important that the deliberations of the school board, medical advice that's being provided to the school board is available for the public. especially if the choices the district is going to choose to deviate from sound medical advice, from the recommendations of the vast majority of the medical community. I think it's important that there's discussion of why those choices are being made, who's making those recommendations, and what we can do and to make sure that the public is aware of that. Again, the Delta variant is a formidable challenge. It's much more infectious than previous versions of the virus. And we're seeing an increasing proportion of kids in Mississippi and throughout the country that have been impacted. And again, those impacts aren't just numbers of deaths, which are important, but it's so many other things. They impact our learning, they impact our families and our community. I believe we can do better as a community, and I think we must do better. If our goal is to help kids stay in the classroom and have the best educational experience possible. Your local pediatricians are here. We've offered to help and we're available to help and provide any kind of information that will be helpful to you. And we ask that you please make the decision to put kids first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more request to be heard. Mr. Foster?
Thank you. I just want you all to know that I've prayed for y'all a lot over the last 2 years. I've served in the capacity of elected official, and I know the burden that carries in normal circumstances, and I can only imagine the pressure and the sleepless nights and concerns that you've all had for your staff and all of these students, with 30-something thousand, I think, students in DeSoto County. It's a tremendous responsibility, even in normal circumstances, and this has been just a whirlwind of it's really upturned everybody's lives, small business owners who are still struggling. Our economy is starting to really struggle, and we've got a lot of challenges ahead. We're not on the other side of this yet, but there are some things that have become very clear over the last year and a half. We now have a lot of data to look at. There have been a lot of theories, scientific theories. There has been a lot of discussion about how the vast majority of medical professionals have an opinion. Well, I want to address that because it's important. I have a father that's a general surgeon. He's been one for over 30 years. I live next door to 2 other physicians. There may not be a majority of physicians that publicly have an opinion, because I can tell you from personal experiences, I know of doctors that have been silenced by their corporate healthcare corporations and told they are not allowed to have a public opinion outside of the political narrative. That is a fact. That is happening. They have been threatened indirectly with their privileges at hospitals if they have a public opinion that differs from the current CDC position. That's a fact. So they are being pressured to not have a public opinion. So that's why you don't hear from those doctors. I speak to them a lot. They speak through me a lot because I have a voice and an opinion that I've made very public throughout this whole thing. And I want to address a few of the things that are never talked about. One of those being that there has never in the history of science been a prospective randomized clinical trial that shows that masks stop the spread of a virus. And let me explain to you the difference between all of the studies that these doctors always quote on the media. Those are done inside of laboratories. They're scientific theories. They put cloth masks and N95 masks, and they do all these spit tests and these speech tests to see how much transfer there is. But when you actually apply that science in a clinical trial randomized in the general public, all of those studies have shown over decades of research with the flu that there is no significant change in the spread of the virus, even in a hospital setting with trained medical professionals using N95s with the flu virus. They all showed no statistical change. You have to wear a respirator, full body suit to stop the spread of the virus. That's the facts. Now, here's the other facts that we have. We have a year and a half of data. Mississippi was under a statewide mask mandate last year. This board did not decide to do that. Our governor decided in his infinite wisdom that we should do that. He's now changed his mind because I think he heard from the population that supports him in the elections that they're not too happy with that decision. There were only a few states in the United States last year that did not have a statewide mask mandate. We had South Dakota, we had Florida, and we had Georgia. In those, they have actually pulled the data through all the schools that chose to have a mask mandate and did not have a mask mandate. And the CDC itself admitted in a statement that I can send to the board through an email, that there was no statistical difference in the spread of coronavirus in the school systems, and we're talking tens of thousands of schools that were compared, whether they had a mask mandate or not. You can look at the schools in Mississippi now that have mask mandates. They have the same numbers of fluctuations, ups and downs throughout the year that we're going to have here without one. You can look at neighboring states, you can look at neighboring counties, neighboring cities that have mask mandates or do not. The fluctuations are the same. There is no statistical difference. And the reason is because masks do not stop the spread of the virus. They just don't. If somebody wants to wear one, I will fight for their right to have a mask and to wear it. But all we ask is that we continue down the path of allowing parents to make the decision for their children that they see as fit and best. The other point I would like to point out is that the fellow doctor that came up and spoke earlier, he keeps mentioning the American Academy of Pediatricians, and a lot of people speak about the American Medical Association. And these are huge, huge groups of doctors, tens of thousands in some cases. But the problem here with those groups is they actually do have a political agenda. And I can prove it to you by simply looking up the fact that they now embrace and openly push for transgender, men using women's bathrooms in the kids' locker rooms in schools. And the Academy of Medical Association just came out recently and said they think that we should remove the gender from all birth certificates now. And so doctors are not immune from political ideology. In fact, I would argue that over the last generation or so, almost every one of our public universities in the United States of America has been infiltrated and taken over by the radical left and the professors. And they go through a process of trying to radicalize everybody in the college institutions these days. And they're very successful at a majority of those students coming out leaning very liberal because they pressure them and they radicalize them in the classroom. And doctors are not immune to that either. They're in school longer than a lot of people. And so to say that a majority of doctors have an opinion doesn't make it not potentially a political opinion. It just means they have an opinion. And the other difference that I would like to point out, and this is a very important point, it would be one thing if people that were against people wearing masks were to come to this board and ask you to ban masks in school and say that any teacher that wears one should be fired. Any student that wears a mask should be kicked out of school and not allowed to attend. And that's exactly what these people that are pushing for everyone to have a mandated mask is saying. They're actually coming to you saying, we want you to fire any teacher that refuses to wear a mask. We want you to fire any bus driver when it's already hard to find workers nowadays that doesn't want to wear a mask. And we want you to kick every student out of school that chooses not to wear a mask or whose parents choose to not have them wear a mask. And I think it's very different than to just come here and have an opinion, a medical opinion, to say, I personally think it's a good idea. I would encourage any and all of the people that come to me for medical advice to wear one than to come to a school board meeting and try to encourage y'all to force everybody to. That in itself is a political statement and is a political opinion. It is not a medical opinion anymore when you cross that threshold. And the last thing that I want to say is this. We have in this country seen over the last 2 years people use this virus for political gain in ways that I never thought I would see happen to our country. They've used it to manipulate elections. They've used it to encourage and radicalize people, to storm businesses and shut them down and to shut churches down and to do all types of political terrible things to our country. And to me, I think it is absolutely a political agenda. when the data doesn't back up forcing masks on school children, they have almost a 0% chance of being harmed by this virus. It's 99.999% chance that any child that catches COVID comes out of it with just mild symptoms. And that hasn't even changed with the Delta variant. It's more of them catching it potentially. That's irrefutable. It's more easily spread, but it's still not more dangerous than the flu. And I don't remember anybody coming before this board years prior when the flu is still more deadly to children and asking this board to mandate masks for the flu. It never happened before because the political stance has now changed, and this has become our team versus their team. And I just want y'all to let us have the choice. Let parents have the choice. Let children have the choice. And as far as quarantining more students, that's not y'all's decision either. And I think everybody out there in the audience needs to know the State Board of Health is the one that is mandating that if you come in contact with someone and you're not wearing a mask or not vaccinated, you have to quarantine. That's not y'all's decision. It's a very poor decision on Dr. Dobbs to make that decision. He's purposely trying to force people into masks. But I want y'all to hold strong. We have your backs. We will support you. I can assure you that there would be way, way more parents here tonight if y'all have not been such a great board. And but we're here just to support you tonight, and we will continue to do so. And we thank you for everything you've done. And if you ever need any help or ever need anything, just let us know. Thank you.
That concludes the request to be heard. We now have superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. We got several items this evening. I just want to go over briefly with the board. First of all, before I do that, I want to thank everyone who's here in attendance today. Appreciate the input of everyone who spoke and presented. I want to also, as one reason I wanted to speak then, I want to thank our board for approving the pay raise for our bus drivers. I know our bus drivers appreciate that. Also, there was a pay raise for our maintenance staff. They'll have some few changes, things. They're going to be doing a great job in their new role and helping out here at the school. As far as construction is concerned, DeSoto Central Primary School, visited there last Tuesday, met with Mr. White today. That we have no completion date yet on that one. That's when we are a little disappointed in that we are not finished there yet, but Mr. White and his team are observing that one closely. I've been keeping y'all up to date about the supply chain and how that's going to affect the different things with operations. Lewisburg High School, visited there last Thursday where we've got an 8 classroom project going on. We're expecting that to be done later this month. That was the one that was delayed because of the supply chain. Lewisburg Intermediate School, we have a playground that was supposed to be ready for the first of the school year. The supply chain guys, and the playground is right now in Los Angeles, California. We're trying to get that here for our students. And the problem is getting it here because of the supply chain and all that's going on with that. Once we get it here, then we'll have to have that assembled. So we're hoping for October on that. And that's something that I think in a normal year, we would have already had that in place for our students. Child nutrition, I visited with our child nutrition director today. We're still facing challenges there. And it's not inside of our child nutrition department. It's outside. It's getting the trucks here from the distribution centers and also the employees at the distribution centers. And because of that, our menus have to change constantly. And so parents have questions about that, but our director and our child nutrition team are doing an excellent job in that role, just like with many things and many of our speakers, especially in that type of challenges that we're facing. And that's one of those things a lot of people don't see behind the scenes, but a lot of times people may look at the district as saying, well, you know, this is unorganized. Why is this not as organized as it used to be? Why God always have done this in the past? And a lot of things, it's out of our people's control. It's just something that we're having to deal with, and our people are picking up the slack and doing the best they can. 2 road construction projects, Highway 305. I visited that site today at Lewisburg Middle School. The paving is completed out there. The striping is supposed to be done next week, and they'll be doing some dirt work on the shoulders out there for the next couple of weeks. McInville Road, which this is not one of our projects, keep you updated on it. Spoke with Mayor Chip Johnson today about it. They're hopeful that'll be completed in the next few weeks. I'm not setting the timetable on that because we're not in charge of it. And I don't want anybody to say that the city is doing that, but they're hoping to be able to open up that exchange soon. And the reason I bring that up with us is because that'll change the track flow at Hernando Hills Elementary School. Career Tech update, just a couple of weeks ago, August 20th, we had representatives in town from Roger Whitaker's office, Cindy Hyde-Smith's office, and Trent Kelly's office. The DeSoto Council hosted them. They asked us to give a presentation, and so we presented about Career Tech and how that ties into workforce, and hoping to get some help from Washington. And just as y'all know, trying to help the economy and trying to work with the DeSoto Council, Beth Turner and Allison Kilo did an excellent job with that. They did a great presentation for Career Tech. An enrollment update. We are actually continuing to increase. We are, if you compare where we are now to where we were last September, we have an increase of 304 students. We are up now to 34,471, which as always puts us as the number one largest school district in the state. I think the second largest has around 21,000. So we're way out there in the lead. I'm not sure that's something you want to be in the lead on, but it's but we are, and we're proud to have the school district we have in the enrollment that we have. And it's always good to see when the enrollment's going up because that means we have a healthy economy, people moving here and want to be in school here. And then construction at our next board meeting, we'll have some construction projects that we'll be bringing up. I met with our director of maintenance, Jerry White, as I said today. Hernando Hills Elementary School will be looking. I'll be asking the board for an additional 8 classrooms there for the 2022-2023 school year. DeSoto Central Middle School, it'll likely be 9 classrooms that we'll be asking for there. DeSoto Central Middle School cafeteria expansion and DeSoto Central High School cafeteria expansion. We're also hoping over the next few weeks, we're working on a long-term plan for Hernando's growth. We've been working on, obviously, Lewisburg, and we're in good shape there. And we're working on Hernando right now. We're going to be able to announce that in the next few weeks. And I just also want to close by thanking our teachers, administrators, and support staff for all of their hard work. And as always, I'm working with all of you. Thank you, please.
You're welcome. We'll try.
Madam President, can I make a comment also that the superintendent left out because he's not going to give himself an out of the way, but the DeSoto County School District was the primary, a leading district in advocating with MDE through your superintendent for MDE to modify its virtual policy to allow hybrid instruction, because as you know, they had eliminated that possibility, and your superintendent was one of the primary reasons that was modified. Know that the district, because I've said many, many times, you guys really are the bell cow when it comes to school districts in terms of leading the change.
People don't understand that we can't just do what we want to do. We have someone who governs us, so to speak. I need a motion for consideration of exec closed session for the residency and student discipline.
I make that motion.
All in favor? Aye. We will go into executive session. Mr. Chase will come out and announce if we are going to